And we are live, sort of. This is a
that's
pre-recording,
right.
But it's not live recording. But this is going to be a completely unvarnished, raw version that will be the unabridged version because we're not editing. I frankly can't add to my editing schedule currently these days. I'm Tom Duncan.
I'm Sara Shea.
And welcome to whatever this is that currently does not possess a title.
No, does not have a title.
But what are we doing?
Well, Tom, we have been, let's just say you chased me down and said, hey, let's do a different concept for a show. And I said, okay. And then you said, it should be about TV. And I said, that's a great idea. Why the heck would you want to talk to me about TV?
Well, first off, I think the last time that you were on GMOAT, you specifically asked if we could go back to, because when a lot of this stuff and you and I more, let's say, friendly started up was our mutual appreciation for premium television and Severance, most specifically, where we would watch it live basically together on the same night.
Yeah.
And then I would text you because I'd start it like 30 seconds ahead of you. So I'd be like, what the fuck? How did that just happen? And just spoil the shit out of stuff for you.
Oh, it was great. I actually really loved those nights. Sometimes Andrew was lurking around, but we had appointment watching television, which I basically don't do anymore. And I loved sitting online with you chatting about whatever we were watching, which was Severance at the time.
And so you wanted something to do together in that capacity. I thought about it. And while we do have another mutual show that we're going to be lining up here in the near future, that is not what we're discussing for the purposes of this show. So my mind extended further.
Right.
I have wanted to talk about something in regards to TV for quite a long time. I know that my dad and my appreciation of movies has been the forefront of pretty much most of my podcasting life, but I've had other needs. Let's say that. So we've had this conversation when we were talking about the origination of this idea. I believe that no one person, often I find this in the capacity of relationships. Usually when you're married or in a serious relationship, you want that one person to encompass all of your needs and all of the buckets that make you you. And I just don't think that's applicable. And so this isn't anything against why isn't Dana on this show? Or why isn't, Dana. Any of my siblings or whatever else. It's that I occasionally need to stretch myself with different people who reward different centers of my being Tom. And this is one way. I enjoy watching TV and discussing TV with you specifically. And so my idea is just simply, let's watch something, especially because I've been making suggestions to you repeatedly and you seem to like every single suggestion I give you.
Well, so let's make this statement right here and right now on public record. Tom is batting 1,000 on recommendations for me on TV and movies, and has been continuously for how long have we known each other at this point? I would say
we've known each other longer than when I started recommending stuff, but I would say it's probably about 15 months since 16 months since I started really suggesting stuff to you.
I was going to say probably about a year and a half. So it's a significant amount of time, and you have hit the mark every single time. And I have been waiting for you to suggest either a show or a movie to me that doesn't somehow catch me up, because I have been emotionally involved in everything that you have suggested, and it's across genres, especially in terms of television, and movies as well. But the television stuff, I mean, it was fun to watch Severance with you because that was very in the moment, right? Everybody was talking about it. And I don't think that was necessarily the first thing that you had suggested to me, but everything that you told me seemed, everybody should be so lucky as to have Tom make movie and TV recommendations, or maybe I'm just lucky because you figured me out. Maybe I'm easy. I don't know. But yeah.
I take recommendations to people very, very seriously because I want them to enjoy, and I try and curate it to the individual.
Right.
So my little sister, who is also named Sarah, but with an H, she's the only other person.
Sarah.
Okay.
I just had to get it out. Sorry. I had to get. Okay. Continue. Start over.
Well, there's no starting over. This is the raw, unabridged version. So
I understand.
It won't be edited out. Just for next time. Anyway, she's the only other one that actively takes all of my recommendations. Mm-hmm. Like, I will suggest something to Dana, and until I put it basically on GMOAT, he won't watch it.
Okay, yeah.
And my mother, I think I suggested 3 shows to her for months. Like, I suggested to my folks, Department Q, that I also gave to you, about the time that I was watching it, and they still have no idea what I'm talking about anytime I bring it up. So...
And that's a recommendation that I passed along to my mom as well.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
It's a re-gift.
Wait, is that a re-gift, or is it, if you like it and you enjoy it, it's not...
It's a gift.
But you re-gift something that you don't actually want.
Ultimately, what I will say is that I wanted to talk TV specifically because I think I found myself watching more TV, especially in the age of streaming and binging and all of the other stuff that has fulfilled like a need for me. Mm-hmm. I think it's no secret that I've been a fairly lonely kid and frankly adult for most of my life. And I think that movies and TV often attract lonely people because it's filling in the human connection that you otherwise are not getting. It's creating a group of friends, especially like long-running sitcoms or TV shows in that capacity. It's like your friend group that you get to hang out whenever you need to. And it fulfills this itch for you. So with that capacity, I wanted to find something that we could mutually discuss. And I think part of the origination is I've watched a lot more TV, a lot more premium TV, a lot more TV that people know than you have. And so I think part of the fun of this is that we've basically figured out, at least for probably the majority of what we're going to do and discuss, that we're going to take something that you haven't seen, that I have seen. I will rewatch, you will first watch, and then we'll kind of play it out that way. Occasionally, there will be somewhere where we'll switch the roles, where it's something that you've seen that I have not, and we get to do that. I think you suggested like Cheers as one of them because I've only watched most of the first season, I think.
So good.
But
so good.
What did we select to cover first?
Yeah, so we had a great conversation talking about all of the different shows, and you had said here are the different formats that it could take, right? Where we could just sit and talk about whatever we're watching. We could re-watch something together. We could find something that neither of us have watched or whatever. And I think, what did we come up with? It was...
I think I gave you 46 shows to pick from.
You did. But like the 4 R's that we had, right? It was...
Rewatch, recap, react, which was like in the moment. Relax and chill, which is supposed to be like a format of Netflix and chill, which Andrew, don't get those ideas that you're definitely thinking about right now.
He's already definitely thinking.
Oh, right, he's he's texting me right now during this episode that he's listening to as he's...
Hi, Andrew. I can't believe we've kept this a secret for as long as we have. Yeah, so it was basically like rewatch, react, relax, and the other one was like rubric / rankings, right?
Yes, which was very much on the idea of borrowing from my own show and keeping the format of the movie of GMOAT more or less.
Right.
I don't think G-Tote has as much of a good ring to it.
It would be G to vote. Greatest TV of all time? TV? GTV?
Well,
OAT?
But if you're going to take television, it would still be G-Tote.
You G-tote yourself. So anyway,
how would I do that? And with what instrument am I using it?
So the idea was is we were going over these ideas and trying to think what would be something that both of us would mutually enjoy. And then it really truly has been, you've seen way more shows than I have by a lot. And I am lacking in that area. In terms of films, I think you and I can meet each other on a pretty even plane of us not having seen things for the other person and suggesting that type of stuff. And I think it's, you clearly have tapped into what I like in movies, but I haven't seen everything. You haven't seen everything. We have different things that we like, which would be great to share with each other, but also we spend all of our time talking about movies. So looking at this list of TV shows that you just started throwing out, and then the joke was that you suggested that I watch Shogun like a year ago. And I said, I can't watch it yet because it's going to require me to read subtitles. And I watch a lot of stuff while I'm grading for school. So I can't watch it yet. I'm going to do it at the beginning of summer break. And then I didn't watch it. And then I watched an episode and I was like, this is amazing. I'm totally going to get back to that. So I don't know why we're not doing Shogun, because that should have just been our first one to finally get me to watch it. But you had all of these options. And then I was looking at them and I said, so many of these are top rated shows that I have never seen. Like maybe...
I think we narrowed it down to Dexter, The Wire, and The West Wing. And
as
the
like
idea,
the top three. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the idea is that we would take one season at a time of any show that we picked, and then that'll just be an encapsulation of what we're doing. So that way we're not tied, like, we're not going to do 7 seasons of one show and then move on to the next. We'll kind of go between stuff so that we're keeping it a little bit fresh.
Right. And I think that everybody's going to be doing their topical whatever everybody is watching in the moment right now. Everybody had stuff to say about Severance. Right now it's all The Pit, all of that type of stuff. We're not necessarily going to have anything new to say about that and to have people want to even pay attention to us. This way, it's essentially, we're starting off with something that you know and you love, that most people love, that I don't really know anything about, almost going into this blind. So yeah, we had a top 3, and then I kind of decided this one, we chose The West Wing, is such a huge show. I basically said to you, I think it has Martin Sheen in it, and I know it's about the White House.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, and I was like, that's what I know. Right. And you said, okay, then we're going to do it and we'll see what happens. And now we're seeing what happens. So
that is to say that we will be covering the first full season of The West Wing, 3 episodes at a time.
Right. It is not going to be one at a time.
Which will take us only 8 weeks, because 24 episodes divided by 3. I'll let you do the math.
Yes. So that's what we're doing. And so just like a week and a half ago, when we decided, we were like, all right, watch the first 3 and we'll see what happens. And then Tom said, I cannot say anything to him about anything
until we're on mic.
Do not talk to Tom regarding the show. Look, I wrote it backwards. This is me writing it the right way, but this is me writing it backwards. Do not talk to Tom about the show. And I've been sitting on my hands for a week now, over a week.
Yeah, I know.
But what is the thing that you just told me before we started recording?
I'm not sure what you're referring to. There were a lot of things we started talking about before.
Okay, that is true. what's going to happen at the end when we finish season 1.
You're going to get very upset that we're leaving off at a cliffhanger at the end of season 1.
Right. And I was like, so what? I'm just going to keep watching the show. And Tom said, no, you are not.
Because we can always come back to season 2.
So here's one of the things about me as a television viewer that I would like to share with everyone. And this is part of why this concept is fun to me. But when I agreed to do it, I didn't know I wasn't going to get to just finish whatever we were watching.
No, because we could pick up season 2 in season 5 of the show.
Thomas Jefferson Duncan. So here is how I watched Game of Thrones, one of the few shows that everybody else has watched that I also watched, but I did not watch it when it was on and popular. I waited until they announced that the 8th season was about to come out, and I thought, okay, I'll watch 7 seasons of Game of Thrones in a matter of months. And I loved it. I didn't have to wait for anything. I didn't experience any agony, no anxiety. There was no anticipation. There was just excitement. And appointment viewing television has become incredibly difficult for me ever since. Which is why Severance was hard to watch, but I liked the tease. I liked the anticipation. But this is also kind of, you had asked me about a show that had just released a new season.
All I'm going to say is that I have a lot of things planned for the last episode of this season.
Oh, God.
Already.
Okay.
That will torture you actively.
Perfect. You know me so well.
Again, Tom Duncan, super genius.
And I'm just going to say challenge accepted. Okay. I'm just going to go with it and we're going to see what happens.
Barney. Anyway. All right. So you have not seen The West Wing. You knew very little about it. We've discussed why you picked it.
Yes.
Before we get to your general impressions that you had before you started watching it, and you have watched the first 3 episodes now for the purpose of this episode.
Yeah.
My relationship to this. Now, I know that we talked about this somewhat in advance. You're going to stay out of your own political persuasions in case you have students that are going to watch this. And I would hope we try and do our best to make that a reality or make that happen.
Right.
I, however, am not going to stick to that. I am a flaming liberal who lives in a liberal bastion that is Madison, Wisconsin. I am a former Democratic political operative, speechwriter, campaign manager, etc. My degree from undergrad was in political science with an emphasis on constitutional law and communications. So this is like TV porn for me without the sex. People know what I mean.
Decide if that's interesting or not. Okay, continue.
Anyway, when I was working in campaigns, specifically around 2011, 2012, somewhere in that range, I think it was the summer of 2012 was when I finally put this on. I was working around a lot of staffers and other people who were kind of like me. Let's just say it that way, from a personality standpoint. And everybody, to a person, fawned over this show.
Okay.
And told me, you've got to watch this. So during that summer, I picked up and watched all of them basically in a huge binge. It was on Netflix. It currently is as well. And I just watched all 7 seasons like very, very easily, very fluidly. And eventually got like my dad into it. And so I've watched it multiple times. My little sister, I've gotten her to watch the show. This was like the early days of Netflix before it really kind of like got poisoned. When The Office was on Netflix and Arrested Development was on Netflix and all these other shows that just kind of like fed the algorithm when it was first really growing. And I will note that because this is very much about the political values that I hold and like hits me very hard in certain soft places as to what I'd like my government to be, what I'd like my world to be. And very much this is like a very highfalutin idealized version of real life. Like government does not operate this way. I'm well aware that it doesn't. This is the ideal version. But because it is, I'll also reveal that after episodes 2 and 3, I did tear up because it hits me in the feels. It is that kind of show for me. So, all right.
So I think here's the thing also that we should make known. You and I are, I think, pretty much hopeless romantics. We love the schmaltzy stuff, even if we don't necessarily look like it or project that when we're discussing films or doing all of our podcasting stuff. And so this is essentially, despite part of what I want to talk about is realizing why I didn't watch this when it was originally on the air. But that there's all of those components to feed into for you and I to just be like the whole way.
Well, we'll get to that. I think part of what we're going to do with each of these episodes and what I'm planning on here is I will say what the name of the episode is going to be. I will read the date that it was released or that it aired. And then I'll read the quick IMDb summary of each of these as we kind of go. So then we'll kind of discuss it that way. I definitely was not watching this at the time because when this first episode came out was Wednesday, September 22nd, 1999. I would have been in 4th grade.
That's great, Tom. I was living in Seattle. I was in college. I had moved there. I actually had gone up to visit Seattle during the summer of 1998. And I thought I was just going to be there visiting my boyfriend at the time for a couple of weeks. And then I never went home. So by the time this show came out, I was still living up there, just being someone I literally had just turned 20 years old and had no concept of watching a network drama show, let alone a political show, let alone anything related to any of this. And I think I was much too obnoxious in 1999 to have deigned to watch any of this. I'm pretty sure I was still watching like Monday Night Raw back then. And
we all make mistakes.
Hey, I've been to 2 WrestleManias, okay?
We all make mistakes.
So it's because I was trying to contextualize for myself what was going on in my life that I didn't watch this at the time. And for me, it seems to be, it was came out at a really specific time where I would not have paid any attention to this. And it shows in the span of time that has passed since this show has been on. It's almost 30 years that, wow, I'm a totally different person then than I am now. And the person that I am now is very interested in the show and has absolutely enjoyed the show, but there's almost no way that it could have resonated with me, or I couldn't have sat still for it long enough while it was on. But starting to watch it and being like, oh, okay, this is bringing back so many memories. And the fact that this show came out in 1999, so it's pre 9/11, but it was still on the air when 9/11 happened. So you have, not only it's a show in the late 90s, but it's still existing when 9/11 happened. So I'm very interested to see how that shift, because I very much think of my life as pre 9/11, post 9/11 as an adult. And golly gosh, Tom, I don't know if you remember TV in the late 90s, but They made it,
but it was
it's so different than stuff 10 years later or now.
My version of TV in 1999 was reruns of like teen shows on the Disney Channel.
Okay. Which wasn't.
I mean, I was preoccupied with learning the no strings attached bye 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 dance, which I can still do.
Oh, can you?
Oh yeah.
Because I think I might want to see you demonstrate that, because one of the things that I was focusing on, and I realize that this is part of what I do with my show with my dad, is trying to figure out what music was popular when this was going on, because that would actually help me figure all of that out. So what do I have right here? Is this a list of
Backstreet's back? All right.
Billboard Hot 100 number ones of 1999, Thomas.
Okay.
Yep. Make some guesses as to what you think.
Okay, so I think this is the No Strings Attached was 1999. So I think Bye 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 would be in the top 10. And 1998, I think, was one of the Backstreet albums. Their bigger one was Millennium, which I don't think came out until, if it not late 99, early 2000. So that would be splitting the difference. I also remember there might have been a Leanne Rimes song that was like really huge in 1999.
Potentially. You want to know who the number one artist
Wonderwall in there?
It's too late for Wonderwall. I think Wonderwall would have been the
Congratulations to Oasis for getting into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last week.
Okay. Now, this is because they end the year. So, well.
You're going to really make this hour-long show really dense, aren't you?
Who do you think the number one artist in 1999 is?
Oh, boy. Faith Hill.
You're wrong. Take another guess. Because
I think Faith Hill's, is it This Kiss? Would have been like really popular around this time, but yeah.
You're wrong.
Hootie and the Blowfish.
You're wrong. Can you even sing a Hootie and the Blowfish song?
Hold my hand. Yes, I know Cracked Rear View.
Let me tell you who the number 9 position is shared by.
I'm also going to guess Aerosmith was like really popular because Armageddon was the year before.
Nope.
Okay.
These are the people who are sharing the number 9 position for top number one artists.
Was this the first year of Marshall Mathers? So like the real Slim Shady would have been big?
At the top of the 9th position, we have R. Kelly. Who is sharing that position with Celine Dion.
It's the remix
Brandy,
to Ignition.
Britney Spears,
fresh out the kitchen.
Enrique Iglesias.
Oh yeah,
Mariah Carey, and Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Then
I have 99 problems and you are one.
Number one artist is actually in 1999 is actually Santana. And
yeah,
Rob
okay,
Thomas.
that makes sense because that song was huge, but it came out like the last week before 2000. Like it straddles.
Nope. It reached number one on the charts
October
23rd. Smooth, Santana featuring Rob Thomas all the way back in October 23rd, 1999.
That is on the playlist that I shared with you. Yes.
It was number one for 10 weeks. It closed out the year.
Yeah.
So it dominated so much at the end of the year that that they became the number one artists And after them, TLC. Do you remember TLC? Don't go chasing waterfalls. Stick to the lakes and the rivers that you're used to. And after them,
yeah,
Ricky
I never
Martin,
really cared for them.
Jennifer Lopez, and Christina Aguilera.
She bang. Oh, baby, when she moves. I go crazy.
It was actually quite a year for songs in Spanish. Like Enrique Iglesias, his number one hit was Bailamos, which I love, but Ricky Martin had his first English language hit as well. So it's wild. And that was back when Christina Aguilera was actually more popular than Britney Spears, because
was Complicated in 1999 Avril Lavigne? Because I remember that being pretty big too. That would also have been around the days of Baha Men and Who Let the Dogs Out.
Well, because no, because that song was really popular when I was living in Costa Rica, which would have been back in like 96. Complicated was 2002.
Yeah, Who Let the Dogs Out was much later than 1986.
You know what? Who let the dogs out?
Oof.
2000.
Okay.
This is actually, you know why? Because I'm thinking it's the second time that I was living in Costa Rica is when it came out. Okay, anyway. So super fun. Looking at the songs, I immediately was just like, what? This is what was going on. I remember Britney Spears' album being for sale in Tower Records and Sam Goody's, and
this was her second one, right? This was the Oops, I Did It Again.
Is that her second one? Baby One More Time. This is the one time that Baby One More Time was out and was on the charts, but it was only for 2 weeks at the beginning of the year. It was not. It was popular, but it was not.
I mean, I remember the video for
it being.
Oops, I Did It Again, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Christina Aguilera had way more cachet at the time.
Was this Genie in a Bottle territory?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And in fact, I went with my partner at the time. We went and saw Christina Aguilera in concert. We were at 20-ish years old, the oldest people at the concert. And you know who opened up for Christina Aguilera at the time? This little group.
Called Destiny's Child?
Called Destiny's Child. They were a nothing group back then. Wild. Anyway, so that's what I'm thinking about. So the actual number one song on the day that this episode first comes out, what was it, September 22nd? The number one song is Unpretty by TLC.
Yeah, I never really got into their shit.
It just beat out Bailamos by Enrique Iglesias. Bailamos. Let the rhythm take you over, Bailamos. You can actually buy that album completely in Spanish.
Okay.
All right.
So, episode number 1 is named Pilot.
Yes.
The senior members of the White House staff are summoned to the office early in the morning to handle difficult situations. Hundreds of Cubans are on their way across the Atlantic in search of freedom. It obviously does not describe what is the central narrative of the first episode, which is whether or not Bradley Whitford's character will be fired.
Correct.
Also, the like offhanded joke that he makes early on that we find out later in the episode is it's like slowly panned back and we get all these reveals throughout the first episode, which I do think is an effective pilot. The joke that he makes, your God is too busy being indicted for tax fraud. Like, that's so tame.
Well, it is. but there's so much that was tame about the world back then.
We were just coming off Lewinsky.
So here's part of contextualizing this show. Okay. First of all, is this the start of like the common use of the term POTUS, by the way?
Yes.
This is what popularized it? Okay.
Yes.
That's because
so I guess I should give you some additional background on this. Okay.
Yeah.
This is something that I didn't share with you intentionally. Aaron Sorkin wrote the show based on his own time in the West Wing. He is the Rob Lowe character, essentially. And so Rob Lowe is supposed to be the lead character in this show. It morphs after the pilot into being much more of an ensemble. And then like Martin Sheen is so good as the president that it kind of like ends up being more about him and then all of the other peripheral characters. But it's a very ensemble show. So it was never solely about Sam Seaborn in the way that it was originally conceptualized. But Aaron Sorkin wrote The American President partially based on his time in the White House. And the Clinton White House specifically, where he was in the communications department. And then after he got out, he started writing this, which is somewhat of an offshoot. It like if you start lining up the pilot and then stuff from The American President, there's like some definite overlap between certain staffers and people that are in this type of role or type of situation. So this is very much a reflection of the time based on kind of the Clinton White House.
Right.
Obviously, Martin Sheen is a much different person than William Clinton. But anyway.
That's why, because he used to jog to McDonald's.
That is correct.
And he played the saxophone. And that is the creation of the greatest SNL skit of all time, where Phil Hartman is playing Bill Clinton and he goes into McDonald's.
Rest in peace.
And yes, and he does Warlord, where he's explaining it's the best.
No.
Ever.
That is not the best SNL
it is.
Skit of all time. First off, there are several Eddie sketches that are significantly better. I will also give you Space Pants.
Nope.
Which, if you haven't seen that one, the Sweaty Balls is up there.
Nope.
Okay.
No, because it's toilet humor. Warlord is not toilet humor. It is
ESPN
100%
classic,
clean all across the board.
And also, what is Roderick and Gans? Now, you specifically, if you have not seen Roderick and Gans, I need you to go watch it immediately and then send it to your dad. Don't do it now.
You said immediately.
Upon the conclusion of the show.
I'm writing it down. Anyway, Warlord, I still, to this day, take things and say Warlord. Put them in my mouth. Continue with your
raw and unfiltered, folks. Raw and unfiltered. Anyway, so this show is very much from that perspective. Now, I'll let you take off from there. What were you thinking this show was going to be going into it?
Right. So I'm trying to remember, and 1999. Okay, so knowing that this was supposed to focus on Rob Lowe, which based on the pilot is absolutely what it seems like, right? So taking just that episode. And it's pretty clear that, they start expanding it out afterwards. And I'm trying to remember, was this Rob Lowe's kind of comeback to be more of a serious actor? Because he had been part of the Brat Pack, but then it had all of these other issues. And
his sins.
Right. And he had been kind of a funny character in Wayne's World, but I don't think people took him seriously. So I feel like this is his transition into being comical still, but he's an actor and not a pretty boy, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the start of the use of the term POTUS felt immediate in the sense that we understand that term absolutely now, but the whole part of this pilot is predicated on the idea that they keep saying POTUS and nobody knows what they're referring to. And it's supposed to be this super secret code that they get to talk about the president of the United States in public, but nobody knows who they're referring to, right? And now we all know, right? I work for POTUS. Because he's Sam and the call girl mix up their pagers.
Well, right, but that's like the first couple of minutes. I don't think it really continues through the rest of the show, and he's like itching to say what that means to her. So,
but they keep saying it throughout the first episode, so it really lays it on thick. And so I'm just pointing it out as I can't remember when we as a society started saying that. Like regular people started saying.
I mean, this was a big show. It was network television. A lot of people watched it. Yeah. I would guess that fairly immediately people started talking about it in the same way that I will drop references to SCOTUS in the same capacity.
Right. So here's the other thing. Cell phones were still highly unusual in 1999. So, sure. But pagers were totally normal. Now we would see pagers as being weird, but that scene where ultimately we find out it's Mandy, but the woman who's driving the convertible and she's on the phone and she gets pulled over is at the time would have indicated so many things about this character that don't ring true anymore. Her being on the phone would have been an indication that she is rich enough and important enough to require a phone, which would be like the vast 99% of people aren't carrying around a cell phone at the time. So she has to be some big important person, which I don't know if I buy that she really is that important. But anyway, that would be the signal, right?
I mean, they dropped the other hint later on that she left some big corporate job making like $500,000 a year kind of thing. But okay.
Yeah. And I'll talk about her in a second. But that whole scene with her getting pulled over and she's so important that she has a cell phone, she's using it in the car, and she's getting pulled over and she's still talking, implies a level of wealth because people were still being charged by the minute to talk on the phone, even at home on their landlines. So the price that it would cost to talk per minute on a mobile phone, which most people were talking, that's an astronomical amount of money, maybe $5 a minute. Who even knows? I remember my long distance phone bill at the time being, what could a banana cost? $10? So.
Yeah, I do recall, I think that was the year that my family got DSL and we were like hip.
Yeah. So this is like a huge deal. And I don't know if that would necessarily register with people, and that the pagers would have been absolutely normal. High school kids had pagers. That was how you communicated. People would send each other secret codes. Having the same pager as someone absolutely was going to happen because you would just keep selling pagers. They didn't bother making different versions because why would you make something that looks different but serves the same purpose to sell more things, which they totally should have done. They could have made so much money, right? So I was
Apple wasn't making pagers.
No. No, they were not. They were just making boring computers. So that whole scene right there put it into a time frame for me that is lost. It's kind of, if you didn't live through it, it's kind of unbelievable in terms of what a specific moment in time that was. And it threw me for a loop. And I was just like, well, okay, I guess now it's really pulling me back into how old this show is. And I'm saying old in terms of like high school kids think anything is older than 5 years.
If we were watching The Sopranos, I have some of the same similar issues with it starting in the late 90s, early 2000s, because it's like right on the cusp of this conversion into where we're at. And the technology's like really apparent where people still have, in The Sopranos, there's a very central piece of tech for me that just dates it immediately, which is the wall phone with the giant extension cord that like reaches across 2 rooms.
Listen, when I talk to my students because if you don't know by now, I am a high school English teacher. Okay. When I talk to my students about how we have to deal with putting away our cell phones so that we can concentrate during the school day, and I tell them, back when I was your age, we used a rotary phone, and you had to, this is why you called dialing a number, because it was literally on a dial, and if you messed up in the middle, you had to hang up and start over, right? But in order to get privacy, when I would talk on the phone in high school, we had like a 30-foot long cord that I would stretch across all of the kitchen, because it was right here in the corner of the kitchen, like on the line in between the kitchen and the living room. And I would stretch it all the way across out into the garage and shut the door so that I could talk on the phone in private. Meanwhile, everybody's getting clotheslined as they walk through the house. There was no talking in private. Everybody knew you were on the phone. Anybody could hang up the phone at any moment.
So
it was a thing.
It was. But if I also wanted old guy hour, I would have had Dana on this show.
I'm way cuter than Dana.
Well, I won't dispute that.
I'll say maybe sometimes you like me more than Dana. Anyway, let's move on.
It definitely depends on the day. There are days. Today is not necessarily one of them, but yeah, there are days where he drives me nuts.
You're like, and now what did I get myself into with this and Sarah? Okay. So one of the things that they talk about in this episode is, okay, so there's this mix up with Sam and he's slept with a call girl. Oh my God, the scandal. But there's this talk, and it's within the first couple of minutes, and then they kind of thread it through the rest of the thing about the Cuban fishing boats and all of the Cuban refugees who are fleeing Cuba and how bad it is and how they are trying to come over into the United States, and they are highly at risk, right, out in the open ocean. And I immediately thought, oh, this reminds me of Elian Gonzalez, which was a huge news thing. And I looked it up, and Elian Gonzalez doesn't happen for several months. Elian Gonzalez happens November 1st, 1999. So it's like they predicted this exact thing, but it also means that they were doing such topical things that it was literally, it's a joke. Fingers on the pulse of society. This show right off the bat is dealing with what was going on at the time. Elian Gonzalez was 6 years old and he was fleeing Cuba with his mother, and the boat that they were on sank, and pretty much all of the passengers drowned, including his mother. It was like him and only 2 other people who survived. And then there was this huge custody battle of his dad back in Cuba trying to get him back. And now Elian Gonzalez is like in the government in Cuba. He returned back home, but he was a poster child for immigrant suffering at the time.
Yep, he was.
Everybody knew who Elian Gonzalez was, and he was this adorable little boy. It kind of floored me a little bit. I was not prepared to go down that emotional little rabbit hole.
Well, before we have to further discuss immigration and more topical situations like our current immigration system and enforcement, let's maybe move to a slightly different subject.
Yes.
Let's just make this a little bit more generic. All the things that happen in this episode, Martin Sheen coming in at the end, I think, is the absolute topper, where you're just kind of waiting for that presence to come in.
Yes.
And realistically, that was like supposed to be almost a one-off, where he's kind of almost a cameo. He was not supposed to be a regular on the show. It was supposed to be about the staff.
So it's Deus Ex Machina, and I found overall the episode to be very enjoyable, and then it took such a serious turn at the end, like super serious. There's accusations of anti-Semitism and harassment and all of these things. It's kind of the plot twist that goes on with his is it Bartlett's daughter? Granddaughter is getting harassed right? And they're threatening her life and things like that. It was very, very interesting. And so him coming in there and seeming to be a very, very affable character.
It very much felt to me like Daddy's Home.
Yes, absolutely. That is a really, really great way to describe it. I loved it. I ate it up. I thought it was fun.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that's part of what made me think about how the TV was just different. The music that's going on in the background and in the scene transitions, and you almost feel like there could be a laugh track happening sometimes.
So there are a few things that the West Wing's very famous for. The patriotic music, the walk and talk was not a thing until this show did it. But Sorkin like specifically wrote for it to be this way because people are so busy that the only time that they can talk or converse is not in offices, but in between meetings, walking to various places within the West Wing.
Right.
And then the speed of the dialogue. And I thought about this because a lot of shows like develop their voice or their identity over time. This seemed to have it from almost the jump. All three of those things were very much front and central to what this show was already about by the first episode.
Well, and I think that is highly reflective of Sorkin's style, right? So he wrote A Few Good Men. He won the Academy Award, right? Which
no, not for that.
Didn't he?
No. I think he's won twice. Once his first one was for The Social Network. He might have been nominated for A Few Good Men, but I know he didn't win for that.
But okay, so that was back in 92, right? Okay. Yeah. So, and wasn't it originally a play that he wrote?
Yes.
Okay. So here's part of what I was thinking, and I know that his walk and talk kind of originated with this show, but it made me think of, this really is, you don't need to have any of the setting going on. Whatever conversations that are being had don't necessarily have to be happening in a specific location. And so it felt like a stage play to me in that same vein of, but he would have had experience with that, A Few Good Men as a stage play, and then adapting it for film and what is television, but smaller film. And that to me made it feel a little bit familiar to me and made me relax into it as an audience member, because I didn't have to worry so much about where they were going, even though they were constantly in transition. I did kind of like make a little chart of characters and who's above who and stuff like that, because it's going to take me a little bit of time to figure it out as a new person watching the show. But
the basic concept is you have the president, you have the vice president, who kind of has his own staff and is off on the side, but Hoynes will come up multiple times throughout the seasons of the show. You have Leo, who is basically the second in command, and then Josh is his deputy. Behind that, Toby runs the communications department. Sam answers to him directly. And then CJ is the press secretary who has her own responsibilities, but also has an ability. She's sometimes separated from the rest of the group for various different concerns, but she also has this. And so you'll slowly be introduced to more and more characters that work within the West Wing. But then it's the ones that really get to me are trying to remember whose secretary is whom.
Yeah. Well, and let me tell you, like, the casting in this show is phenomenal. I'm like, I know that person, and I know that person, and I know that person, and I know that person. And do I know that person because they then went on to do other things, or what? Like, was this show the leaping off point for many of these people? It was fascinating.
Like Allison Janney and Bradley Whitford didn't really do anything before this show, and then got big because of the show. Obviously, have gone on to do a lot of other things.
Yeah, and I love both of their roles. And it's kind of, I was trying to decide like every episode, okay, which character am I currently in love with for this episode, right? Which one am I paying attention to and enjoying the most? Which one am I annoyed with? Right now, I'm super annoyed with Mandy Hampton for 3 episodes. I just want to punch her in the face. But
do you want me to help you with that annoyance or no?
No, not right now.
Okay.
No, because I'm still in the beginning
stages.
Because
I could easily do so.
No. I need to feel the feelings and see if they resolve. If they don't resolve, then we can have a conversation about it, because that's either bad writing or I'm being obstinate, or it's going to be okay.
No. It's going to be okay, because I'm going to do this anyway and just let... That was a character that was short-lived because...
I'm not listening. I cannot hear you. I have no idea what you said. You literally told me we couldn't talk about the show and that I can't watch anything after.
I understand. I'm just telling you in advance, they recognized it was not a well-written character. And she's not in it for very much longer.
Oh. Well, you didn't need to tell me that. I could have been excited on my own. Yeah, she's annoying.
They don't ceremoniously like walk her out the door. She just kind of disappears and never comes back.
Does she really? Good.
So
I cannot stand her. She's so obnoxious. And I think part of the problem is she's written like powerful women in the 90s were written. Loud and brash and over the top, because she's having to compete with men. And it's a stereotype and it's a trope that I cannot stand.
You're going to much prefer Mrs. Landingham.
Mm-hmm. Already I am.
Donna.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
And the First Lady when she finally comes up, which she doesn't in these first 3 episodes, but like she becomes a very central character the further on into the show you get.
Okay. I'm interested.
Especially by season 2.
Okay. But which I can't watch.
Well, we'll see.
All right. So we are at the end of this first episode. Is there anything else we want to add to it?
No, I think we've covered at least well enough. I mean, we're at basically the hour mark and we still have 2 episodes to go. So, okay. But so far, enjoying, yes? Through 1? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then we get to episode 2 here, which is titled Post Hoc Ergo Propter Hoc, which again is Latin for therefore because of, I believe.
It is after this, therefore because of this. So because this thing happened after this thing over here caused this thing to happen.
It's basically an undermining of causation theory. But anyway.
Correct. Right.
The summary for this one: Leo hires Mandy as a consultant to the president. Vice President Hoynes rebuffs CJ when she tries to discuss a comment he made. Leo confronts Hoynes and insists that he understands his obligation to communicate with the press secretary.
Oh, there's way more that goes on in the episode than that, but yeah.
They are laying the brickwork for a lot of stuff to go on with Hoynes. Let's just say that.
Okay.
And it comes up, it's not going to necessarily come up right away. Let's say that. They're playing a little bit of a long game, but it very much pays off in the end.
I'll tell you, I was a little bit taken aback by the confrontation between the vice president and Leo, the chief of staff. I'm just like, what is his title? Okay.
You don't get to direct me to the men's room.
Right. You can't tell me to poop, basically. And he's like, I'm going to take you out, which was really, for me, what is this something that's actually, do we even like the vice president? How did he get this job?
That is actually something that will be revealed over time.
Oh, okay. That's actually,
they do a whole like going back in time episode at some point. I can't remember which season it is, but basically revealing like how everybody got on the campaign and how Bartlett was elected and how he selected Hoynes and all the rest of that. There is a reveal episode that goes back in time.
So it feels very contentious. Is it in general contentious?
The relationship between the vice president and the president is somewhat contentious due to one thing, but there is something that obviously has not been revealed that Hoynes knows, but nobody else knows right now.
Okay, that's totally fine. It was just like, whoa, that's not what I expected. Episode 2, right? And that this is the introduction to the vice president character. And I just kept going, wait, why are we mad? We're upset.
Well, in the 30, well, you said it was almost 30 years, and I guess now doing the math, it's like 27. So you're kind of right on the standpoint that we're used to vice presidents having a lot more say or being generally like involved in things, or that they don't seemingly go against the presidents.
Right. Perception.
Yeah, it's not like a reluctant vice presidential situation like it was for other presidents that kind of led into this era. But think about the ones since we had the show. We had Dick Cheney, who most people thought of was like the shadow president. We had Joe Biden, who was in on almost every major meeting and was helping negotiate stuff, and all this other stuff is like
and I think
supplementing Obama.
I think public perception too was that they were really good friends and that they wanted to hang out together. Even if that's not reality, I think that that's what was projected. I mean, the first vice presidents were whoever came in second place.
Yeah.
Is how they used to do it.
Right. But there has been through history and time a reluctancy for vice presidents, especially in the 20th century. There were a lot of reluctant vice presidents that were chosen for their political involvement, and not because they were like close friends or confidants or whatever. I mean, the most contentious one we've had since the show came out, other than Mike Pence at the end of Mike Pence fame, is probably Kamala's relationship with Joe Biden. Where
fair enough, yeah.
She was never really given her own agenda to do, and then she's just kind of like thrust into this awkward situation at the end of it, which we don't obviously need to relitigate here, but like that seemingly was the one where there seemed to be the most distance between two people of a modern presidency. Because even right now, like JD Vance is lapping up Trump's ass.
Okay, let me just restate again, because I actually don't think I've said this in full. I will not be revealing any of my political affiliations whatsoever, because as a teacher, it is against my job to have anybody know what my religious affiliations, political affiliations, sexual orientation, none of that. It is totally not allowed. And the best teachers are never going to tell you whose side they are on. And if you know a teacher's side, they're not doing their job correctly. I'm in a position of power over impressionable children, and it is my hope that every single one of them thinks that I am on their side, but they don't actually know, because I'm never going to say anything. So I'm going to very often, Thomas, while you make whatever statement, I'm just going to be giggling behind my hands because I cannot agree with you or disagree with you. We're
That's
never
fine.
going to have
if
those
you
types
want
of
to
arguments.
If you want to have a disclaimer to read that you'd like your attorney father to write for you, that every time I make one of these crack wise, I'm okay with that.
Why can't you write it for me?
Because I'm not out of law school yet.
Whatever. Okay, anyway.
Even if I am the best writer on staff.
Okay. So anyway, I just need to make that abundantly clear that even as we're talking about things that have happened in the past, I still cannot show any sort of association. Sure. And that's not because I am a weak weenie or anything like that. It's actually because I am very certain in my moral convictions that it would be inherently wrong for me to, other than playing devil's advocate here and there, I can't.
Understood. Scout's honor. But that doesn't prevent me from doing anything.
Okay. It absolutely does not prevent you from doing anything, of course.
That is correct. All right. So moving into this episode, we have a lot of things going on. Is there anything else that you would like to generally discuss first?
Okay, so I think you warned me about this episode, and you did a great job of not really saying anything, but you contextualized it just enough that I was a little bit more prepared than I would have been, and I thank you for that. So
you want to talk about the ending right at the top?
No. I want
Okay.
to talk about us meeting Tolliver in the beginning.
Okay, sure, we can do that.
Because I actually wrote a note to myself before I knew what was happening, right? That this Bartlett, the president, is meeting Captain Morris Tolliver, who is his stand-in physician, but he wants him to become his full-time doctor, and he can't right away because Captain Tolliver is going to go to Jordan for a week, blah blah blah. But he's kind of coerced into becoming the permanent doctor because Leo says the president likes you. You make him feel better. You lift his spirits for whatever reason. He really likes you. He wants you to have this job. And this scene where it's clear, it's only the second episode, that, oh yeah, the president is going to be a character rather than this godlike figure who flies in at the end. The scene between the two of them talking as they're doing the back and forth chatty banter while being given a physical exam, talking about things that they're concerned with, talking about Tolliver's brand new baby, all of those things, it humanized the president in that moment. The only other time that we've seen him briefly was he's bringing down the wrath of God for threatening his granddaughter and saying these anti-Semitic things to his staff members. But we also have heard that he rode his bike into a tree, and so he's kind of supposed to be this like doofus at the same time.
He's definitely got like a goofy streak to him, but when he needs to pull
correct
the power and possession, like the ending speech here, I will wipe them off the face of the earth with God's own thunder. Like the way he delivers that with such gravitas is why you love Martin Sheen in this role.
100%. And I think that Martin Sheen himself brings so much of that on his own, right? He's an excellent actor. He can play fire and brimstone. He can play gentle and goofy. But I loved this scene when he's meeting Tolliver and they're just having like a casual conversation, but it also feels like it is a conversation about the end of the world. Look at the picture of your daughter as he's walking out and he says, see, your past isn't the only thing that matters. And then he says, get out of here. Like, woo! It was effective writing and a quieter moment that I really liked.
He has to be extremely charismatic in basically two scenes for you to care enough about him that when the ending of the episode lands, it lands as hard for you as an audience member as it does for him in that moment. Which is hard to do. I mean, we've talked about this in a number of different movies where like you have a character that suddenly, and spoiler 3, 2, 1, he dies.
Right.
You have to miss their presence, which is not, it is partly the writing. It's partly the acting. It's partly just an ineffable quality to the actor. So it's casting. It's, it's a whole bunch of things.
In this moment in particular, the ending scene of this episode, it's also costuming. He's in a hoodie as the president, and he doesn't say anything for so long. It's an extended shot of him sitting in this chair in his essentially workout clothes, right? And the camera is pulling back out through the window as he's just sitting there, and everything, his demeanor, how he's sitting in the chair, again, the costuming, the fact that he's wearing a hoodie rather than a suit or any other sort of casual dress makes him feel so vulnerable and does absolutely engage the audience in this is an emotional moment, but it doesn't feel cheap in the same way, in the way that it potentially could feel cheap. And I'm glad that the episode ended there and didn't continue on. Like, so that episode continues into the next episode, or that topic continues in, and I'm glad that there was a separation so that there could be this emotional resonance with losing Captain Tulliver, and I should have known. This is classic Star Trek. He's a new character wearing a different color uniform. He has a backstory, and then he walks off stage. Damn it. Totally, he's a red shirt. So yeah, I really loved that initial meeting, and it feeds in so well to the news later that the airplane that he's been in has been shot down.
One of the things that the show is really great about revealing is all the tough things that we never really have to consider, or at least hadn't considered up until probably maybe the last 10 years, where national politics has become much more entertainment. And so we have the 24 cable news shows that are basically opinion and debate and the rest of it. And they talk about a lot of this stuff like it's second nature.
Right.
This is stuff that used to only be mentioned on like Meet the Press, but people didn't really like let it sink in. Oh my God, there was a plane shut down by a military thing. And we maybe would hear about it, but we'd be able to separate ourselves out a lot from what the decision making is, the personal stake that would be involved, what's going on in a situation room. Like they're going through, well, I guess that's the next episode and we'll get to that, but being handed a note and just, this is what happened. And now I'm being woken up at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night and I've got to go address what's going to happen next kind of thing. The amount of things between that and then even like an offhanded remark by the vice president getting into this cadre of stew for all of this to be going on. I think that's one of the things that the show really captivates people on. It feels much like a behind the scenes kind of thing, even in an idealized mode.
I agree with you. And I think you're mentioning that even passing a note while something is happening. And that makes me think of, that's what happens on 9/11, right? George Bush is in a classroom full of children, right? When he is passed a note and who cares what you think about Bush in that moment? He holds it together because he's in front of kids and he cannot let on what is happening, what he's just been told. And to me, that's such a sign of strength and courage, because I'm pretty sure any of us would think it would be absolutely okay, or it would make sense or justifiable for someone to yell in that moment or curse or just say, what the, and kind of freak out. Imagine if he'd been told that. We would never know what his reaction was if he'd been behind closed doors, if he'd been in the Oval Office, if he hadn't been in a public space when that happened. And I think that you're right. That's what this show feels like, that we are getting a behind the scenes real look at things. And it isn't always as overly dramatic as we anticipate it would be, but that it also is much more difficult, as you said. All of the nuanced things that they have to deal with. I mean, it's kind of silly in this episode. Sam wants to keep dating the call girl that he mistakenly had sex with, right? Or he didn't know she was a call girl. And so that's kind of the silly, like, humor part of the show. And I'm thinking about it going, is this really that big of a deal? And I was like, yeah, at the time, this would have been a really big deal. It still pretty much would be a big deal right now. We haven't changed that much, but the discussion happening around those circumstances, I haven't done anything wrong, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the moral grappling that is going on without being preachy on either side, okay, other than against like religious extremists, which we should be preaching against religious extremists no matter what. And I can say that even though I'm a teacher. It is really carefully laid out so that nobody feels alienated by what is going on.
That I will say, and I think I mentioned this to you leading up to the show and after we'd chosen it, that even though it is definitely from a slightly liberal perspective based on the issues and the sides that they take during the show. I know a lot of even Republican leaning people that really enjoyed this show, partly because it's idealistic. And so they present it in a light that is favorable to people, even though they don't they may not be on certain sides of the issues, but it feels like all sides were considered during the making.
100%.
I won't say that keeps up 100% of the time, but at least this isn't a way that modern politics has not been for quite some time. That yes, you may have lost the presidency, but you didn't necessarily doubt the office or their intentions. And I don't think that in the modern light. So for example, okay, when Obama was in, and I'm just going to use this as a precursor, but he talked about, I think in either his first inaugural or his acceptance speech in 2008 or something, I'm not president of Blue America, I'm not president of Red America, I'm president of the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
And during Trump 1 and now Trump 2, we've gotten a very different attitude where he is retributive toward anybody he perceives as an enemy that doesn't vote with him. He is intentionally towards blue cities, blue states, certain areas just get different treatment and different attitude towards them. And it feels like he only really wants to be president of a certain subsection of the country. Even George Bush, as much as my problems extended, like I definitely had a lot of issues with how the administration was run, what they did, what their choices were, etc. I didn't, at least for him, and I pinged back and forth at times, but I didn't think that he held ill will necessarily for people in the country. I don't think I can say that of the current administration.
And I think that is part of what is highlighted for me watching this show now. The world wasn't partisan back then. And it is so partisan now that people are ending friendships over political affiliations, over not even did you vote for this person, but did you say hello to somebody who voted for this person? I mean, it's so extreme, right?
Yeah, that's why I would rephrase that slightly. It was definitely partisan in that time frame because there were very drastic, like, partisan beliefs even in that time period, like the Clinton stuff, the Iraq war, like those were all very difficult subjects that people were partisan of. What I would say now here is that we're tribal. That's the qualifier that I would put on it.
Sure. Politics is always partisan in terms of which things are going to be on a more conservative bent and what's going to be a more liberal bent just in general. I'm really talking about, and the correct word is tribalism, right? My side is always good and your side is always bad. And I can't even shake your hand or be in the same room with you. Anything that you say to me that I disagree with is hate speech. I don't feel safe. Whatever it is, you're psychotic and mentally unstable. No, you're psychotic and mentally unstable. It's so much name calling and blaming that it seems... well, okay, so I'll say that, and I told you this, and it bears repeating. I grew up in a house that was both Democrat and Republican. My mom is Democrat, my father is a Republican, and I grew up in that wasn't an issue. People
house
now,
divided cannot stand.
But it was such a great house to grow up in because I saw firsthand people who held different political beliefs and yet still came together and were able to love each other and speak calmly to each other about differences of opinion in terms of how the government should be run, not moral issues of, is this person a good person or a bad person? Because that wasn't determined by politics. That was determined by other things that happened in our household, like our faith and things like that. That's what informed your morality, not your politics. Your politics can inform your morality to a certain extent, or
I would say your morality could inform your politics. I wouldn't.
You're right. I said it backwards.
I mean, I wouldn't say that you said it necessarily backwards, because I think there are people that they pick their side and then they let their politics inform their worldview and their morality.
Sure. Yeah.
And they excuse certain things as a result of it. Like, I mean, and both sides are very guilty of that. I'm not even going to quibble with that, knowing that I'm very much on one side of the aisle than the other. But ultimately, to me, it comes down to there have to be two healthy political parties, because you can't have one. It's not a unilateral country. It is a democracy at the end of the day, or at least we're trying to be. Most people believe we should be.
There has to be two sides. Otherwise, you always need to have somebody in opposition. Otherwise, even if you think you're the good guys, you're the bad guys. If you are the ones in power and no other conflict ever exists.
If there's one real criticism that I think is at least fairly lobbed at the current administration, not even necessarily the first Trump administration, but this one, I don't like to be in rooms where it's just filled with yes people. It's nice to the person who's like in charge, because you get to be thought of in a very good light, but it doesn't make for effective decision making.
Well, right. And I think that it doesn't make for effective decision making. It doesn't make for an effective life at all. If all you are doing is existing in an echo chamber ad nauseum forever, no. And honestly, that's what's fun about Discord that we are on, right? Even though I can't be in there too often because it makes my brain explode. If everybody was just
Is that why you haven't voted on the CLP list?
I did.
You did? I didn't see your
email
vote.
you. You said you can vote in Discord or you can send an email, and I voted on Discord, but I will send you an email.
No, that's all right. I'll look just to make sure.
But if everybody liked all of the same movies, why would we even hang out together? You and I liking the same types of shows. It's not even that we have to like the same types of shows, although it's clear that you like the show and I am enjoying this show. You wouldn't subject me to something that I wouldn't like. What would be the point of you torturing me, like everybody advocating for you to watch all of these horror movies? Peterson, Hill, you are a monster.
He's not the only one in there.
No, I know. I just
it's all right.
The way that he phrases stuff is just really perfect, because it seems almost nice, and he's obviously teasing. There's no harm intended, but it's cute. So yeah, why we shouldn't want a world that exists. We should at least want a binary, right? Let's work towards a spectrum, because really I think politics is more of a spectrum, right?
Yeah, unfortunately the system we've set up with the first past the post type of scenario lends itself to really only having two parties, and anytime we try to create a factional third, we've essentially reintegrated into two parties.
But we shouldn't have one. We should not have one. You should not want everybody to agree with you all of the time. That is so scary.
Yes.
So scary.
All right. Anything else that you want to discuss of this episode before we move to the last one? Because this is going to be a double-length episode that we were not anticipating.
But it's our first one, so we're forgiven. We're going to figure out what
people do not have to listen to this.
No, they do not. But again, we're so cute, and we're figuring it out, and we will have it figured out next time, maybe. Of course, it's going to take longer the first time. We're going to feel it out. I think that. So here's what I will say. In the 3 episodes together, this middle one is almost forgettable. It has emotional resonance with me because of my own personal experience, but the implications of the middle episode is played out in the 3rd episode. Therefore, the 3rd episode is a little bit more exciting, because it feels like these 3 episodes really are part of like a like a movie arc, right? And if nothing happened after episode 3, we'd be like, okay, we went on an interesting adventure and there's a full storyline, right?
Yeah.
So the middle to me, I'm like, which episode would I rewatch? It's probably not going to be the second one because it chokes me up emotionally. There's more interesting things happening, but you can't have the third episode without the second.
It has a transition episode or a bridge episode feel to it, but I do think there are pieces of this, like you can't just drop into the third episode by itself.
Correct.
Unless you've seen episode 2. Like it has a lot of world building, which the pilot establishes several characters, but it doesn't do the best job. Like we haven't seen the vice president yet. We haven't gone to, I guess by the time we get to the third episode, we haven't gotten to Danny the reporter yet, which will be a significant character. We get another introduction by the third episode of a character that lasts literally through the rest of the show. So there's multiple other pieces of this, but yes, as we go along, like I think that the show, by the time it hits probably episode 10, which you would expect with a lot of shows that are long running, basically has found what it's going to be, or the characters it really wants to focus on.
Right. And this feels more like it's character driven, but we don't yet know which characters are fully going to be driving at the end, whether the end is episode 3 or episode 85 or whatever it is. And I think that this is why some people feel like, for example, Empire Strikes Back, some people really love it because they say it's very character heavy and it's all of the dark and disturbing stuff with all of these reveals. And then other people are like, it's just, there's not a lot happening. I want there to be more explosions, right? And we need Ewoks and things like that. So
okay. Well, let's jump to episode 3, which is titled A Proportional Response, which is very specific to what happens in the episode. This was released on Wednesday, October 6th, 1999. So still in the late 90s here. When Danny, a reporter, learns about Sam's relationship with a call girl, he doesn't write a story about it because CJ gives Danny a lead on a much bigger newsworthy item in exchange for his silence. I think we got to come up with better episode summaries than this, because like they're missing significant portions of this. The whole side plot with the new body man played by Dule Hill.
Okay, Wikipedia has more extensive ones. Maybe we should go off of that and we can choose to edit them down a little bit, because if we're going to bring up the Charlie character, okay, here's what it says. Charlie Young applies for a messenger job at the White House, but impresses Josh so much that he insists on hiring Charlie as the president's personal aide and body man. Yes. So that's a thing that happens. You already said the little part that they have about the reporter, and Timothy Busfield makes my skin crawl.
Oh yeah, I guess. Yeah.
No, he always has, regardless of allegations. He's just always rubbed me the wrong way.
Well, unfortunately, he comes back a lot.
Yeah, whatever. I'm just going to be like, every time he's on screen. But the majority of this is about the response to
Tolliver's plane going down.
I'm like, what's his name? His last name isn't Morris. Tolliver's plane being shot down. And again, he's a doctor, a military doctor, and he's shot down with multiple military. It's like how many people? Dozens of people are killed.
Well, it was like 8 doctors, but it was a military plane, so like 20 some people went down.
Yeah. And so they even describe the evolution of finding out who's responsible. We first thought that it was like an electrical error, something was wrong with the plane. Then credit was taken by these extremists with a ground to air missile launcher like off their shoulders, and then that wasn't true, and now we think that it was the Syrian government who shot it down. And so the decision has to be made, what are we going to do? And so the title, A Proportional Response, is the idea that, okay, we can't just sit back and do nothing. We need to, it's like an eye for an eye sort of response. So then the tension in the episode comes from Bartlett wanting there to be, what was the line that you said that he says at the end?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to blow them off the face of the earth with God's own thunder.
Right. He wants to go in there and just obliterate stuff because he's mad and because he's emotionally connected to the disaster in a way that he didn't expect. Right. So it's his personal doctor that was on the plane, and he acknowledges that he may not have this type of reaction if he hadn't had somebody that he knew who died. But the conversation that is going on in the Situation Room about proportional response and disproportional response, that if they do what the president wants, that he will have doled out a $5,000 worth of punishment for a $50 crime.
I think yes, and you're getting into the granular a little bit on this, but I think what it's really showing you is the immense amount of power the president holds, and then the amount of responsibility that everybody around him possesses to not let him act on his baser instincts. Correct. And again, based on where we're recording this right now, with the war going on currently in Iran and some of the other things
days old
that have come out in the news already, even from like Trump 1, where he was talking about stuff like this, and you knew that the Situation Room conversations would go on like this because he overuses or overemphasizes, in my mind, the military and the military strength, and tries to use it as he's very carrot or stick when it comes to international relationships. And it's technically a lot more stick than it is carrot, but fine. The carrot is usually present me with some like gold-plated something, and then, you get a better trade deal. But regardless, you realize within the course of this episode, he wants to go further, but Fitzwallace is trying to talk him down. Leo's trying to talk him down, and then there are people that are there, and the safeguards that happen, and that's not necessarily anti-democracy. Right. That's good governance. Right. That there are, and we talked all through Trump 1 on the various different cable outlets of the adults in the room. This is the adults in the room.
Yeah. Well, and I think that getting granular about the things that are said is what makes it interesting, that this is the way that they have to kind of phrase things in order to, for like the lay people, like the audience members like me, so that I can understand it, right? I am beautiful and I'm intelligent, but stuff like this doesn't necessarily, I need it to be dumbed down. And so one of the things that Fitzwallace says is that, or is it Fitzwallace? Yeah. So he says the $50 crime thing, which felt, but then the saying that they think that this is an overreaction from a first-time commander-in-chief, right? This is your first response on this big stage. So we're to understand that this is the first kind of like international incident. So what are you going to do? Because what has been established throughout these first 2 episodes is that this is a new administration, but also not a super stable administration, right? Bartlett is not at 100% approval rating, or even at a majority approval rating at this point, right? They've been there for a couple of years, maybe a year, whatever it is.
Yeah, I would say this is probably 6 to 8 months in.
Oh, okay. Right. It couldn't have been a couple of years if this is the first. Yeah. So,
because I do think there's an episode coming up with the midterms at some point in the near future.
Okay. But anyway, so what's been set up is it's not just Camelot, right? It's not everything's hunky dory. There's constantly something fluttering, smooth duck on the surface, right? Floating around, feet underneath, wriggling furiously. And so this decision that he has to make, it's not as big as, say, needing to decide whether or not you're going to detonate some nuclear bombs, but it carries that emotional weight because he wants to take them out and bomb the shit out of them. But why does he want to do that? Is it because American people, he says American people need to be able to walk free, right? Isn't that what he says? But really it's because he's mad because his friend is dead. And I like that nuanced take was at least presented. Ultimately, he does the right thing and there is a proportional response. But I think that we needed to have this sort of emotional, we needed to see him kind of have the emotional overreaction so that he can then calm down. And as you said, the adults in the room, they're making decisions, and it's not as easy as the Joint Chiefs of Staff make it seem like, here's what we're going to do. And he's like, I don't know how to feel.
Well, but he doesn't, even when he makes the right decision, he doesn't calm down. He storms out of the room, and then he's still firing off at people up until literally he's about to address the country. And Leo pulls him aside and puts his head on straight again.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, it happens in a different order, but he makes the right decision because he is, and I think this is the important part, right? He expresses himself. He's pissed off. He's angry, but he listens to reason, right? Yeah. He listens to the people who have more experience than he does. And that's why we feel comfortable with him as our TV president, because we can see him being emotional, but at this point we can trust that he's going to make the right decision, which is really, again, the idealistic component. That's what we want to actually be happening. And if it's not actually happening, then we're definitely going to jump in on the escapism of it, right?
Well, and the escapism is, I would react in the same way, but I'd want somebody to talk me down, and I would hope I would make the same decision, even if it is not what I would want to do.
And here's what's really interesting too, because when they have that scene where they're sitting in the Situation Room and he says, does anybody have a cigarette? And he starts smoking. This is right at the beginning of when smoking was kind of on its way out publicly. So people still have cigarettes, but that's the signal of, he's doing it. He's doing a bad, right? He's doing bad things for his health, and he's sad about this doctor dying because the doctor was trying to put him on the good path, and here he is being a masochist, right?
Well, the cigarettes thing comes up again and again.
Oh, does
it? And very
okay.
famously in one particular scene that we won't get to this season. Okay. But yeah.
Well, and again, this is one of these things where it's a decision is made to show in a very, very quick way what a character's emotional state is, right? So we can understand the reaching for the cigarette. Even at the time, that wouldn't have been a throwaway thing, because this was really right at the cusp of things changing fundamentally in society, where smoking was beginning to legitimately be looked down on and stuff. And so I was just like, oh, here we are again at this little precipice of things changing. And if we couldn't show that now, a president smoking cigarettes would be considered a bad guy. Like, that's a villain. Why is the president smoking, right? People were upset at Obama potentially still smoking.
Which he definitely does.
Yeah.
But anyway,
right?
Is there anything else from this that you wanted to discuss briefly outside of the major arc? I mean, did we want to discuss Sam and his continuing escapades? There's the moment with Leo McGarry's daughter, which I think is kind of cute and fun, which it betrays your expectations. But
I mean, right now I'm not so interested in Sam. The storyline with Sam, I want to know more about him, like writing speeches. I don't really care what he's doing in his personal time. And I do like the discussion of, I haven't done anything wrong, people shouldn't care about this. And then being like, but people do care about this, and this is going to put your job in jeopardy. I like that discussion. I do not like the actual interaction, right? I'm not interested in seeing him actually talking on the street and bothering her at dinner. And I don't want any of that. So okay. I'm kind of waiting for Sam to like do something more interesting.
Sure. Okay. I can see that. I don't think he ends up being the most interesting character in this.
Okay, that's totally fine. I am right now interested in other characters. I'm interested in CJ. Definitely as a character, I want to see what's gonna happen with her. I really like.
I mean, she won Emmys for a reason.
Correct. The cast again. I really like the cast, but I do want to mention Charlie. It's Gus from Psych, the other show that you asked me to watch, and I was like, "Hey, wait a minute, where do I know him from?" And Psych is obviously after this show is over.
He is a significant character that will persist throughout the history of the show up until the very end.
Yeah, was excited to see him and be like, oh, how long is he going to be on? And then I peeked a little bit, and yeah, he's going to be on the show.
This is basically his introduction as an actor, and he's obviously done tons of stuff. So
right. Well, and again, this is almost 30 years ago, and so you see Bradley Whitford with like a full head of dark hair, and it's wild. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So based on where we're at with these first 3 episodes, so I will tell you that there is a little bit more with the Sam storyline with the call girl.
Okay.
There's definitely some stuff under the radar with the Hoynes situation.
Okay.
There is stuff going on with CJ and Danny, which, okay. I know, I can understand your feelings there. And there's definitely stuff between Leo and Bartlett that will be done. So, based on that, do you have any predictions for where we're going to go with the next 3?
Oh, gosh. Am I going to be doing predictions every time?
Yeah, I think we can make this into a thing.
Okay, so then I will prepare better for next time. Thinking off the cuff, there's no way that the Sam thing isn't going to become a scandal. I feel like there's a whole reason that they're setting it up, and it's too juicy to let it die out. Everybody's saying you want to reform her, and he's like, no, I don't. And then she even says it to him. Okay, that's a prediction. So that's going to be a thing. Okay, you already told me Mandy's going to be out because I just can't stand her.
I think she's out by probably episode 10. Like, she does continue on for a few. There is one significant episode that still has her in it. But other than that, I think she starts to fade out pretty quickly.
Okay.
Charlie does start to get pretty, like, very quickly becomes a very integral part of the fabric of the show.
But they set it up very nicely for that to be an easy in. That whole beginning, see, with Josh's character saying, I'm really interested in this kid, and he's got all of these great qualities. Let's give him this other job because he comes in for a different type of job. I'm looking forward to that. I feel like you've already said that the reporter's going to be around, and
yep, he kind of comes in and out during the course of the show.
And so I'm curious if he's going to, and this, I'm not trying to base anything off it being Timothy Busfield, but is he going to be a character for good, or is he going to be a character for bad, right? Is he going to be a gnat in the ear, or is he going to be somebody who's trustworthy? We don't know yet. We do know that he had access to this one story and he didn't run it yet, but he totally eats up being given a different story. And so, yeah, kind of waiting to see where that character is going to go. And I felt like that before you said he's going to be around for a while, because he's a recognizable actor too, right? So we know he's not going to be in there for 2 seconds.
Yeah, he's definitely not a throwaway. So
it's funny. I had to remind myself that Bartlett is married and has a wife and a granddaughter, because I was like, he has 3 daughters that you meet one of them very soon. I will say in this next batch of episodes, you will meet his youngest daughter, who is a very famous actress now. Okay.
But this was like her first acting role.
Okay. I'm not going to look it up. That's going to be great. But it's funny because I was like, he's not a bachelor, is he? No, he's not. No. They've mentioned he has a wife, and I had to go back and look and be like, okay. And I've already forgotten who plays his wife and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, you will enjoy Abigail Bartlett.
As a character or the actress?
Yes.
Okay, we'll have to see what happens with that. Because again, I don't remember. I know I looked, but I don't remember.
I just have a feeling.
Okay.
So, all right.
Okay.
Anything else that you want to cover either generally or otherwise? I mean, we've been going for basically 2 hours here.
Yeah, I know. We need to knock this off. We're going to keep this nice and tight later on. No, I'm good. Is there anything
like
anything else you want to touch on before we end?
I enjoyed this.
I did too. I really did too. I'm actually just looking forward to seeing how you and I play all of this out, and I'm looking forward to the reactions from our friends when they find out this is something that we are doing. Melting faces, whatever. Maybe nobody's gonna care. They're just gonna be like, whatever, guys. And that'll be fine too, because actually just hanging out and talking with you is awesome.
And maybe we'll have a name for whatever this is by the next time, but this will be on the GMOAT feed at least.
Okay.
As promoted. There's a lot of stuff going on for GMOAT right now. We have, by the time this probably comes out, based on where my head is at, we will likely have had our live episode of our Oscars preview.
Okay.
We may have already had, or may be upcoming, our reaction show, our traditional reaction show on the Monday night. I think we only have one person so far that said they were in for that. So
I was on it last year, I do believe.
I believe you were on it the last 2 years.
2 years?
I think so. You were at least on one of them, but I think it might have been both.
I'm pretty sure it was last year. Maybe. I don't. We certainly talked about it for sure. I know that at least.
So,
okay. Excellent. Yeah. That Monday is the first day of my spring break.
Well, there you go.
Yes, actually, my dad is going to be in town. My parents are coming into town, so we get to watch the Academy Awards together for the first time in like 30 years, I think.
But depending on how I want to push this out into the world, this may be a one-off that we just like release really quickly, or we may release this as a batch, like 2 or 3 right in a row for people to just kind of like, hey, there's all this new content for you. But we'll see. We're still playing around with a lot of ideas. This show, much like The West Wing in its first season, is still playing around with some of its characters. We may bring in some of our general community that I don't know. You know, we'll see what happens. But
and I think we talked about, is this going to be like, are we just going to live stream it and like never edit anything, and it's just going to be what it is and you get it totally off the cuff? What are we going to do? Like, can people actually tune in live when we do this in the future?
Well, somebody's going to need a more stable internet connection if we're going to do that.
Shut up. I don't know what you're talking about. Everything's fine. Everything is fine over here. It's fine.
But this will suffice as our outro, because we don't have any specific social media buttons to promote or anything else. This will be up on the GMOAT channel under its own playlist and things. And we'll just start with that and see where it goes from there. But otherwise, we hope you had as much fun as we did with covering this. If the next set of episodes, so episodes 4 through 6, are not up immediately following this one, it will be coming soon. We are planning to do this, I would assume, weekly, with the exception of I have some trips coming up in the summer territory. I'm going to be traveling for a conference during May, I think going into Memorial Day weekend. And then I have a week's vacation that I was going to spend in Michigan, but now I have this open territory. And I had a really great suggestion from a friend of mine from law school that I have not been out to the new Oscars Museum yet.
Oh, in LA.
Yeah.
In my general area.
I suppose, yeah. I mean, what's it, 3.5 hours drive?
Something like that.
Depends. I mean, I see people driving from LA to Vegas all the time, but in the movies.
Yeah, I mean, I drive to Northern California all the time, so I do almost that drive multiple times a year. It's totally doable. Or it's a really, really, really short flight.
But I haven't been to LA since I was 9 or 10 years old.
Oh.
Which was also the last time I was in Las Vegas.
So much more to enjoy in Las Vegas as an adult than as a child.
I went to Las Vegas and Miami before I had turned 18.
I'm so sorry. Dana, I'm disappointed.
Well, we were supposed to take a bachelor's weekend, me and my international brothers, to go to Vegas one of these years, but we never ended up actually doing it. And now most of them all have kids, so it's going to be tougher. But it was supposed to be like when we all turned 21, we were going to go. And it never happened.
And now it's just very expensive.
Well, and Dina's like too old to do much.
There's things to do here that
involve
old
sitting.
People can do, yes, like gambling.
Well, I suppose lap dances are seated.
For the person receiving the lap dance, yes.
That is correct.
Isn't the lap dance always better when the stripper's crying? Isn't that a song? It is, by the Bloodhound Gang.
I'm not familiar with this one, but it either invites questions or immediately you need to shut this conversation down. But regardless of that point, I don't think Dana giving anyone a lap dance would be appreciated at this point in time. Remember, we said raw, unvarnished, unfiltered, unabridged.
I'm so very serious right now.
Yeah. So thank you if you made it to this part of the episode. We will see you soon with the next set of episodes, and hopefully we'll continue this for about 8 or so weeks. I think that'll take us right up until about the first of my 2 trips, and then we'll have to select what we're going to do next.
Maybe we can get some audience input on that, some suggestions.
I think it's better left for me to give you a bunch of choices and let you try and pick.
No. I think you provide the options to them and they can decide. Does that make sense? You don't like that. You don't want to relinquish that much control. You like having all of the control.
No, I like trying to suggest stuff specific to your tastes and letting you enjoy it that way, as opposed to, I don't really want to go into the realm where somebody's forcing us to do something and then...
No, I didn't say that. Off the list of stuff that you think that I would enjoy, they could pick. And then we could decide whether or not we actually do what they suggest. But yeah, it's only stuff that you would want to recommend to me. And then we say, what would people want to listen to? Right? Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. No, we're not going to. No, because I don't want to do.
You can vote on our OnlyFans page later.
My God. I cannot have an only. There's no OnlyFans. I'm a teacher. No. Sir, lawyer, don't. I could lose my job. Don't joke about it because it's been done.
Well, first off, you can have an OnlyFans page that isn't pornographic.
That is true. I should have an OnlyFans for like poetry or something.
Or your calligraphy.
Or my calligraphy. Yeah. You guys can just find that on TikTok. Go do that.
All right. But anyway, we do need to end it. We need to abort.
We do.
All right.
Yes. So okay. Bye.
This is it. This is the end. Bye.
Good night.